Suo Er est un écrivain chinois. Il est né également comme Dia en 92, en 92. Il est originaire du sud-est de la Chine, plus exactement de la région de Guangdong, où il est basé à Guangzhou. Suo Er a étudié la littérature moderne mondiale à l'université de Wuhan. Il est l'auteur du roman, alors là c'est une traduction française, le livre n'est pas publié en français, mais c'est pour vous donner une idée, La nuit de l'abattage, et du recueil de nouvelles Noncorrelation, qui est traduit pour la plupart d'entre elles, qui sont traduites en anglais. Ces œuvres ont été publiées dans les plus grands magazines littéraires chinois et ont reçu de nombreux prix, dont le 43e prix littéraire de la jeunesse de Hong Kong et une nomination en 2021 au titre de Most Promising Newcomer of the Year, révélation la plus prometteuse de l'année, par le Southern Literature Festival. Il a également travaillé dans le domaine de l'édition, des médias et des expositions. Ses écrits traitent de la dispersion des cultures et de la vie des individus dans un cadre méridional. En Suisse, il travaille à l'écriture d'un livre de non-fiction, une sorte de travelogue à la rencontre des différentes communautés de la diaspora chinoise dans nos régions et un récit de son voyage en Europe.
Thank you, Sophie. Last month, hello everyone, last month I have gave the public reading, and now me again. And today I'm going to read, it's from the excerpt from my opening story of my story collection. The Chinese name is called 非亲非故, which means neither kin nor strangers. Of course, the English name is Noncorrelation. And the story, it's called Coming Around, which was translated by Grace Namusky. And in this story, the main character, it's a kind of, like my father's role, and I try to use his perspective to envision the world, the society, and the characters in the story, they were like chasing the footprints of the ancestors, and finally they will find that the history itself is full of misery. So exactly that history is the ancestor trying to hide. So we and the ancestors, like we are doing playing a game, winnable game like hide and seek. So the story is also talking about the Chinese diaspora, the generation gap, and the conflicts between the digital age and the traditional local society, and how the young people flee away and come back, and then the rebellion and reflection, and then reconciliation. And the story was written in just one super long sentence, and and of course it's in a paragraph. I know it's not unusual in English, in German, or in French, but in Chinese language, I mean, that's exactly what I try to trying something new to change the narrative mode of storytelling. And I will not read the whole story because it's too long, and I will read the very beginning of the story. And as a root, I will read it in Mandarin Chinese and a little bit, and then in English for the whole test. 2017年，女儿赴加州读书，刚到那会儿，经常给我电邮，邮件写得极其认真，敲下的每个字符仿佛耸立的夜巡士兵。文中还插有他拍下的风景照，堪称图文并茂。虽然数码时代的一切极易消逝，他说明知如此，但仍然用心书写，岂不也是一件浪漫之事？我是通过他的电邮了解到，加州不仅有棕榈，还有皑皑不化的白雪，有凸起巨大保龄球状桥石的海滩。金门大桥在日暮的映射下会显示出一种忧郁的城，他曾长时间注视那种色彩。在经过 Santa Monica 的路上，他也发现了同样的霞光，唤起他同样的情感。那肯定不只是乡愁。女儿在邮件里说，或许是更高级的记忆，在他出生以前就被种下。 2017, that was around when my daughter went to study in California. She emailed me often. Her emails were incredibly sincere, every character like a night patrol soldier standing at attention, to test in spirits with images she had captured, both worthy of high praise. And despite knowing full well that everything in the digital age was transitory, she would say, "But you still write with your whole heart. Isn't that also a waste?" From her emails, I learned that California not only had palm trees, but also had pure white snow that didn't melt, that it had beaches made of rocks, swollen like giant bowling balls, that everything the Golden Gate Bridge gleamed upon at dusk shined a sort of melancholic orange, that she once gazed upon the color for a long while, only to find the same rays of evening light on the streets of Santa Monica. And he called forth the same feeling inside of her, that, as she said in her email, was mostly, definitely more than nostalgia. Or perhaps an even deeper memory that had been planted before her birth. Okay, let's think back. Neither me nor her mother had ever been to California. We'd never been given any special instructions when we conceived her. So it was completely unexpected when our daughter came into the world, shattering the birth control measures we had taken. Amidst her grandparents hoarding over wanting a grandson, and just after her mother and I had gone back to our hometown to give offerings to the ancestors, she snuck soundlessly into her mother's womb like a disappointing dove. Her grandfather's face went purple when he met her in the delivery room 10 lunar months later. He bought a train ticket back to our hometown that very evening, spending half the year in bed before he is willing to see us. It's fine. Our daughter's grown, has never stirred up trouble, has always been cute, and could make her grandparents laugh so hard and they spit out their food. They even gave her several strings of coins that date back to the Qing dynasty, coins that they originally planned to give to the grandson. They developed Alzheimer's in her second year of high school. One after the other, it was swift and devastating. The two curses and jabbed their fingers at each other's every day in the dark living room, transforming our dialect's ugliest curses into embellishments for their words that completely pervaded the language we were immediately familiar with. They were constantly inventing a new culture. It was a shame we couldn't be there to record the fight. It could have been valuable research material for the local Ministry of Culture. I remember in particular paying a visit to the family daughter after dinner, Roger scratching at the ceramic vase beside their bed, and the clear scent of the yard Wampi cheese ripened food leaking into the evening. Someone was spying on them, following them, and the couple who had been relaxing in the cool living room, bursting into a fit of rage of their curses something fierce. One cursed the other of taking a lover, while the other cursed the first of being a whore, a fox spirit feeding upon the vitality of man, and they kept at it in vivid detail. I listened with rapt attention and came to realize that most of their accusations were sheer fiction, because in the end I was a witness that the year just hadn't been many years before. I saw with my own eyes how they supported each other, how they made it through those dark and gloomy months. They were different from the superficiality of this generation. They didn't have enough food to fill their stomachs, and how would they have the energy left to come up with these such things? That's why they were constantly making up words and stories, those fragments of memories like spirits floating around in their skulls. It might have been but an encounter, a look, a gesture, a passing comment, an overheard rumor blown up into a disagreement from their life of endless marriage, pieced together again and again to become this unbelievable, absurd story. During my literary research, I gathered a bunch of old newspapers, the Lingdong Daily, Chaojia News, a ton of articles about married couples fighting, and among these was a particularly awful case. A couple over 70, their own son killed by the Japanese troops' poison gas, while smuggling people into Hong Kong, leaving them with no one to lean on, were dependent on others' emergency rice supply to satisfy their hunger. They spent all day sitting inside fighting non-stop in raised voices. An entire year without rest, they became a community spectacle until one day the noise suddenly stopped. A neighbor saw the golden pheasant fly from their window, a spectacle, and went to knock on the couple's door for no one to answer. They broke in a few days later, and the room was already empty. As for their own earth, the couple went, no one knew. Of course, I believe the end of this story was made up. Real life is tragic enough as it is, and pitiful. There used to be complete privacy. Everyone had the right to keep their matters behind closed doors and savor the bitterness of their own lives. But now everything was out in the open, and there wasn't even that sliver of precious truth. My daughter's mother, who is also my ex-wife, knows about my parents and set aside time to come check on them. We moved a bench to the front of the living room to sit on, but didn't know what to talk about in the end. I asked her how business was, and she'd answer that she was keeping herself busy, the gold watch on her wrist flashing in the corner of my eye as she said this, and with the sweat beading on her neck. It wouldn't be long before she said it was too hot, even hotter than Shenzhen. How could everywhere be so hot? I turned to the mother of my child and know that this northern girl would never get used to the southern heat. Even if she come to the south at 19, she would have been following the footsteps kindly of Deng Xiaoping walking his rounds around the mouth of the Pearl River. He made toys at the factory, lace shoes, sold wontons at food store, and worked as a pub hostess. I saw an old picture of her with a purple streak in her hair, bell bottoms, and sandals in front of Sun Yat-sen's Memorial Hall. I don't know what shepherd the photographer used to make her legs look so very long to whiten her skin so that the blonde stature of Sun Yat-sen beside her looked short and dark. It'd be highly likely she thought the same about me when we met, but didn't say anything as she was very reserved. We went to see an episode of the Burning Red Lotus Temple, then strolled circles around the park, muddle-minded but together. My parents never approved of our relationship or hoped I would find someone local. They said them northern girls would not give you boys if you, in the end, they were right. But our marriage wasn't destroyed by the lack of sons. We were both well aware. Merci beaucoup. Merci.